Arsenal think they're safe. Atletico Madrid are counting on it. That's it. That's the whole story right there. And I know that sounds simple. I know that sounds like I'm reducing a Champions League knockout tie to one line. But stay with me, because the more I've sat with this match, the more I've looked at the numbers, the more I've thought about what Tuesday night actually means, the more I keep coming back to the same uncomfortable truth. Arsenal's biggest problem on Tuesday night isn't Atletico Madrid, it's Arsenal. Let me set the scene for you. 1-1, first leg, the tie is level. Arsenal go back to the Emirates in front of their own fans, knowing that a single goal, just one, sends them through to the next round of the Champions League. On paper, that sounds comfortable. That sounds like Arsenal are in control. But think about what that actually does to a team psychologically. Think about what happens inside the dressing room when the math tells you you don't need to win. Think about how a manager sets up a team when the result you already have is almost good enough. Because here's the thing about comfort in football. Comfort is not your friend. Comfort is the quiet killer. Comfort makes you slow. Comfort makes you hesitant. Comfort makes you sit 5 yards deeper than you should. Comfort makes you play the ball sideways when you should be driving forward. And in the Champions League, in a knockout tie against Atletico Madrid, one moment of hesitation is all it takes. I'm Amelia. Welcome back to the channel. If you're watching this before Tuesday night and you're feeling nervous, you should be. Not because Arsenal aren't good enough, they are, but because the way this tie is set up, the way the numbers look, the way Arteta tends to approach these moments, it's giving me flashbacks I really didn't ask for. Drop a comment right now. Tell me one thing. Do you trust Arteta to be bold on Tuesday? Bold. Not cautious, not clever, bold. Yes or no? I want to know where you stand before we get into this. And if you're new here and you want pre-match breakdowns like this for every Arsenal game, subscribe. Because this is the kind of analysis you're not going to get from a highlights reel. Right, let's get into it. The first thing I want to talk about, and I want to spend real time here, is Arsenal's mentality going into this match. Because I've been thinking about this for days. When you look at the statistics from Arsenal's Champions League campaign this season, there's something that tells a really interesting story. 10 games, 20 goals. That's a 2-goal average per match. Respectable, solid. Not world-beating, but respectable. And then on the other side, 6 goals conceded in 10 games. A 0.6 average against. 5 clean sheets. Now, most people look at those numbers and go, great defensive record. Arsenal are well organized, hard to beat. And that's true. But here's what those numbers are also telling you. Arsenal are not a team that blows opponents away in this competition. They're not a team that goes out and attacks with relentless intensity and scores 3-4 goals. They're a team that controls, that manages, that is disciplined and structured and hard to break down. Which is brilliant when you need to be, when the game demands it. But Tuesday night is not one of those games. Tuesday night is a game where Arsenal should be on the front foot from the first whistle, where they have every reason to go at Atletico early, to press high, to create fear. Because a 1-1 aggregate scoreline at home in the Champions League with your own fans behind you is one of the best attacking invitations you can possibly get. But I'm genuinely not sure Arsenal are going to see it that way, and that terrifies me. Now here's where it gets interesting, because while we're talking about Arsenal being cautious, let me flip this completely. Let me show you something about Atletico Madrid that the narrative of this tie has kind of buried. Atletico Madrid conceded 17 goals in 10 Champions League matches. 1. That's 1.7 per game, nearly 2 goals a game. For a team built on defensive structure, for a team that Simeone has constructed around the idea of being incredibly difficult to break down. And away from home? Away from home in the Champions League this season, Atletico conceded 13 goals in 6 matches. Let that number sit for a second. 13 goals, 6 away games. That's more than 2 goals per match on the road in Europe. 1 clean sheet in the entire campaign. 1. Now think about what Arsenal look like at the Emirates. In their last 6 home matches, they've scored 14 goals and conceded 3. They've won 5, drew 1. They are a force at home. Their fans create an atmosphere that genuinely affects the opponent. So if you're looking at this match purely through the lens of statistics, purely through what the data is telling you, this is a game Arsenal should be going into thinking, we can hurt these people, not we need to protect what we have. And that's the tension at the heart of everything on Tuesday. The data says attack, but the scoreline says protect. Which voice does Arteta listen to? And this is where it gets serious, because here's what I think people are fundamentally misunderstanding about this tie. Atletico Madrid under Simeone, they have been doing this for 15 years. 15 years of building teams that know how to play in matches where the opponent feels comfortable. Teams that know how to absorb pressure, stay compact, and then, in one single moment, destroy you on the break. They are masters of punishing passive opponents. That is their identity. It is built into the DNA of that football club. So when I look at Arsenal potentially approaching this game with a conservative mindset, sitting deep, protecting the aggregate, playing the tie, I don't just see a tactical decision. I see Arsenal handing Simeone exactly the match he wants. Because Atletico don't need you to press them. They don't need you to be aggressive. They're perfectly happy if you sit off them and try to be compact. They will be patient. They will probe. They will wait. And then when you lose the ball in the wrong area, when your fullback pushes up and leaves space, one pass, one runner, and they're through. That is the Atletico Madrid nightmare scenario for Tuesday. And it doesn't require them to have a great night. It just requires Arsenal to have one passive moment. Now, I've been saying Arsenal need to attack. I've been saying the data supports going forward. But let me challenge my own thinking for a second, because this is important. There's an argument, a real one, that Arteta's conservative approach has been what's gotten Arsenal this far in the competition. That 0.6 goals conceded per game, that's not luck. That's a system. That's a defensive organization that has been drilled and refined over weeks and months. 5 clean sheets in 10 Champions League games is a serious achievement. And you could absolutely argue that Arteta looks at this match and says, okay, we're at home. We're solid defensively. We let Atletico come at us in the first half. We absorb whatever they throw at us. And then in the second half, when they get frustrated, when they need to push for a goal, we hit them. That's a coherent strategy. I understand it. But here's my problem with it. Atletico are not a team that gets frustrated easily. That is the opposite of who they are. Simeone teams are built on patience. They are built on resilience. You sitting back and absorbing pressure doesn't unsettle Atletico. It suits them. It is their natural habitat. You want to unsettle Atletico Madrid? You press them. You go at them early. You make their defenders make decisions. You force their midfield to work backwards. You create a frantic, intense, high-tempo atmosphere where Atletico can't settle into their defensive shape. Because the one thing Atletico's away numbers tell us is this: when teams get at them, when the game is open and intense, they concede. Consistently. 2 goals a game on the road in Europe isn't a blip, it's a pattern. Arsenal need to be the team that creates that pattern, not the team that avoids it. Okay, let's talk about the first goal, because I genuinely believe, more than any tactical consideration, more than any lineup decision, more than anything, the first goal on Tuesday night decides everything. Not the match, everything. Think about what happens in each scenario. Arsenal score first. Suddenly, Atletico need 2 goals to go through. 2. Away from home, at the Emirates, with the crowd going absolutely mad. Their defensive structure, the thing that makes them Atletico, has to be abandoned. Simeone has to push his team forward, has to take risks, has to open up space. And that's when Arsenal's counter-attacking quality, the pace they have in behind, the movement, the technical quality becomes absolutely lethal. If Arsenal score first, I genuinely think they win this 3 or 4-0, because Atletico have shown all tournament that when they need to chase a game, they leave gaps. And Arsenal at home, with pace and confidence and the crowd behind them, are devastating in behind. Now flip it. Atletico score first. Oh no. Because now Arsenal need a goal just to stay level on aggregate. Arsenal need to push forward. Arsenal, a team that has been at their best when compact and controlled, suddenly have to become something they're not. They have to chase. They have to take risks. They have to leave space in behind. And that's when Atletico's pace on the counter, with the pressure off, defending a lead, becomes genuinely dangerous. You see the picture I'm painting? The first goal doesn't just put a team ahead. It fundamentally rewrites the tactical identity of the match. It decides which team gets to be themselves and which team has to become something uncomfortable. That's why the opening 20 minutes on Tuesday are so important. That's why I'm desperate for Arteta to start this game with intent, with aggression, with the message that Arsenal are not sitting and waiting. They are going to take this game by the throat from the first whistle. Now think about this for a second. Arsenal's last 3 matches going into Tuesday. They beat Newcastle 1-0. They drew 1-1 with Atletico in the first leg. They beat Fulham 3-0. That 1-0 against Newcastle jumps out at me, because it tells you something about how Arsenal operate when they feel like the result matters more than the performance. They managed that game. They controlled it. They got the 3 points and kept a clean sheet, which is smart, which is pragmatic. In the Premier League, where consistency is everything, that kind of controlled management of a match is exactly what you want. But this is the Champions League. This is a knockout tie. This is a match where a draw after 90 minutes sends you to extra time and then potentially penalties. Where a single moment of defensive hesitation doesn't cost you 2 points, it costs you the entire campaign. The Fulham performance is what I want to see on Tuesday, not the Newcastle performance. 3 goals, aggressive, intent from the start, Arsenal at full attacking force. Because that version of Arsenal, the 3-0 Fulham version, is a team that Atletico genuinely cannot handle. That is a team Simeone cannot set up to beat, because you can't defend everything that Arsenal throw at you when they're playing with that kind of intensity. The question, the only real question that matters, is which Arsenal shows up. Let me tell you the moment that I think will define this game. It's not going to be a great goal. It's not going to be a tactical masterstroke in the second half. It's going to be a moment in the first 15 minutes where Arsenal have the ball in their own half and they have a decision. They can play it safe, recycle possession, move it around, be patient, or they can drive forward. They can press the tempo. They can play with urgency. That decision, that moment, will tell you everything about Arsenal's intentions, everything about what Arteta has set up his team to do. And from that moment, I'll know whether we're getting the Arsenal that goes through comfortably or the Arsenal that makes this absolutely agonizing. And I'm telling you right now, as an Arsenal fan, the nervousness I feel isn't about Atletico Madrid's quality. It's about that moment. It's about whether Arsenal make the right choice when everything feels safe and comfortable and there's no immediate panic. Because that is the hardest choice in football. Not when you're losing, not when your back is against the wall, when you're comfortable, when the easy option exists. Choosing to be brave when you don't have to be, that is the real test. So here's where I land. Here's my actual prediction for Tuesday. I think Arsenal qualify. I think they go through. But I think it's messier than it needs to be. I think Arteta starts cautiously, Atletico have a period of the game where they look threatening, and the Emirates gets a little nervous. And then Arsenal find a goal, probably from a set piece or a moment of individual quality, and from that point, they manage it. 1-0, Arsenal qualify. But here's the thing that bothers me about that prediction. If Arsenal are going to go deep in this Champions League, if they're genuinely going to challenge for it, they can't just survive Tuesday. They need to perform on Tuesday, because the next round will bring harder opposition, with better attacking players, with more clinical finishing. And if Arsenal's mindset going into those matches is still rooted in protecting and managing rather than attacking and imposing, they will get found out. This game isn't just about Tuesday night. It's about the statement Arsenal make. It's about whether they walk off that pitch having shown the rest of Europe, yes, We are here. We are serious. We are not just trying to survive, we are going to win this tournament. That statement matters, and it starts in the first 15 minutes when Arsenal get the ball in their own half and have to decide what kind of team they want to be. So let me ask you this, and I genuinely want your answer in the comments, because I think this is one of those questions that splits an entire fan base. Do you think Arsenal being cautious Tuesday night is actually the smart move? Taking care of business, getting through, saving the big performances for later? Or do you think, like me, that this is the moment where Arsenal need to stop being careful and start being brave? Because I know what I believe. Comfortable Arsenal is a good team. Brave Arsenal is a special one. And on Tuesday night at the Emirates, with everything at stake, I want the special one. Let me know your thoughts below. Arsenal or Atletico, who goes through? And does Arteta make the bold call? I'll be back after the match. And if Arsenal go out playing scared, I will be absolutely devastated. And I will absolutely say so. See you Tuesday.